Good afternoon and welcome back to the Nerves podcast. We're going to be doing something a little bit different today. We're going to be reading something together. I came across this zine. It's Jared Sinclair's Anti-Gorgias. I think it's Gorgias. I'm probably saying that wrong already. Jared's probably laughing already. That's wonderful. But anyways, so I came across this and I asked Jared, Mr. Sinclair, if it'd be okay if I just read this for the podcast, something that you can listen along to. You're probably hearing the music in the background now. So I've got my cup of coffee here. I hope that you have your favorite beverage, and we're together going to be reading through at least the first issue. But if that one goes quick and easy and is fun, then we will move on and go as far as we can. There are currently 4 issues to this scene, and I believe it is technically a spin-off of Anti-Sisyphus. Jared calls it a brand new supplement for Anti-Sisyphus, so I'm not sure. Considering that it's Jared, the use of supplement is important in the critique that he is trying to give just by having this zine in existence. And as I begin to read it, you will immediately understand what I mean when I say that, because this is not your typical tabletop role-playing game zine. This is Mr. Jared Sinclair. So it is going to be philosophy, poetry, and all around probably useless to you, which I think is great. I have a lot of fun reading the anti-Sisyphus scenes. I have not spent a lot of time looking at these, but if you like me and you like tabletop role-playing games, maybe you like to think about them too. And maybe you like to think more about what's behind them. Maybe you like to think about the ideas of art in general. Maybe you don't like any of that stuff and you just like the sound of my voice, which if that's you, then I'm really glad that you're listening now. And get ready as we head into Anti-Gorgias. Gorgias? Number 1. Nature, red in tooth and claw. You cannot ignore emotion. You cannot suppress instinct. You cannot repress evil. The levee fills all too quickly, and the floodwaters never stop adding to the reservoir. No dam is free of cracks, and all barriers must eventually break. You must learn to harness the dark waters instead of damming them up. When the flood eventually comes, it will destroy everything you have struggled to build. Evil must be checked, but it cannot be ignored. Instinct cannot be halted, but it can be modified, redirected. Evil must be harnessed before it overcomes. You must somehow come to terms with evil, accept it, and understand it, and then, finally, overcome it. Deep in all of us resides a demon, or so the medieval folk believed. Taken as a metaphor, it speaks volumes about the human condition. There is evil in all of us. Blank was written in order to discover the nature of evil. Evil most certainly does exist, but it is not as cut and dried as some would have us believe. The age-old dichotomy of good and evil, black and white, is false. Blank is an exploration of evil, and as such, it is unsafe. You are digging deep when you play this game. This game was not meant to be comfortable. It was designed to provoke and inspire. It was designed to make you think and feel, to dream and aspire. Most human evil is a perversion of the territoriality, aggression, and herd programming built into our unconscious. Unharnessed aggression leads to war, and unmodified herd mentality leads to the Inquisition. We are half angel and half demon. Our reasoning, capacity, and self-awareness put us on a practically divine level. Yet our animal bodies and biological needs chain us to evil reality. Modern culture provides so much security against our primal fears, against nature itself, that we are cut off from our true selves. The miraculous products of technology have eliminated many of the basic terrors of existence, like being eaten, but have done nothing and can do nothing to eliminate our inner demons. And these unchecked, unharnessed inner demons are perverting us. Explore your own inner evil. Discover that which makes you unclean, and then cleanse your sores. Become good in spite of yourself. Fight against your instincts. Take the high road. And that was written by Mark Ryan Hagen in 1991. This is a very interesting zine because Jared Sinclair did not write any of it. He literally took these writings from philosophers and thinkers and erased some words. Like when I said blank, that was, I assume, the title of the book, or something like that, that had been blanked out by Jared. And if you look at the zine page, it says it features 2 lovely editorials written by Galaxy Brain thought influencers Gorgias and Mark Ryan Hagen. So that, if that gives you a clue as to the kind of writer and thinker that Jared is when it comes to tabletop role-playing games, yeah. I have to say, reading this this time, taking the time to, speak it out, I definitely understand it a lot more. And what I think is interesting about this is that I have been firmly in the realm of believing in the idea that Dan Harmon calls the basement. I believe it's also called that by other people. I don't know. That's just where I heard it from first. But it is very much a psychology sort of idea brought on by Carl Jung and his idea of the collective unconscious and stuff like that. But the idea of the basement is very, very reminiscent of this. The idea that most people tend to lock up these desires as Hagen calls it, evil. Lock up this evil somewhere, and eventually it will burst out. And so instead, what you're supposed to do is learn to live with it. And I think that is, philosophically, I think that's a very important thing. As it relates to games, who knows? I think if you were to ask me what I think Jared is trying to say here, he's maybe talking more about the culture's evils, the evils that lurk in the tabletop role-playing game community, the honestly terrifying and horrible things that people have done to each other and to others within the community. Pretending it doesn't exist is just allowing it to flourish. And it must be brought to light, it must be confronted, because whether you think you're part of the community or not, if you think there is a community, you're still here, you're still trying to play games, you're still trying to sell games, you're still trying to make games. And if there are people who are harming others within that space, I think the least you could probably do is try to help them. help the people that are getting hurt, of course. Try to do some good. Try to confront the nature of the beast and try to change it. There's one more editorial here. This one is written by Gorgias. I really hope I'm saying it wrong. And I hope Jared's listening right now, and I hope he's laughing. Hope he's rolling out of his chair and onto the floor. Before I read this editorial, though, something that I always really liked about anti-sisyphus really carries over here, and that is Jared's use of art. It's art that he did not draw. It is art that's in the public domain. But he finds these really touching images, I feel like. Like the image on the cover is that of a man kneeled on, it looks like a beach, with the ocean kind of disappearing over the horizon behind him. And the clouds above him have kind of formed into the shape of a woman who is kind of pushing down towards him. And he is on his knees with his hands clasped in front of him as if he's praying. He even looks like a priest. It's just a very touching image. It feels like it has a lot of empathy in it. Like somebody who's trying to be saved. And the next image for editorial 2 shows the back of a man's head with a keyhole in it and a key inserted into the keyhole. And it has been turned and unlocked, and the head has flung open. And his face looks rather contorted, even though we only see part of it. And from his head are flying these dark, devilish-looking weeds. Very apt. But we're going to read editorial 2 now. And just kind of, we'll talk about it a little bit afterwards. See how we feel. The order proper to a city is being well manned. To a body, beauty. To a soul, wisdom. To a deed, excellence. And to discourse, truth. And the opposites of these are disorder. And the praiseworthy man and woman and discourse and work and city-state and deed one must honor with praise, while one must assign blame to the unworthy. For it is equal error and ignorance to blame the praiseworthy, and to the praise the blameworthy. It being required of the same man both to speak straight and to refute crooked speech, one should refute those blaming blank. A woman concerning whom the testimony of those who are called poets has become univocal and unanimous. Likewise, the repute of her name, which has become a byword for calamities. And by bestowing some rationality on discourse, I myself wish to absolve this ill-reputed woman from responsibility, and to show that those who blame her are lying, and having shown the truth, to put an end to ignorance. If persuasive discourse deceived her soul, it is not on that account difficult to defend her and absolve her of responsibility. Thus, discourse is a great potentate, which by the smallest and most secret body accomplishes the most divine works. For it can stop fear and assuage pain and produce joy and make mercy abound. And I shall show that these things are so. Explanation to the audience by means of opinion is required. Discourse, having meter, I suppose, and name in the general sense, to be poetry. Fearful shuddering and tearful pity and sorrowful longing come upon those who hear it, and the soul experiences a peculiar feeling on account of the words at the good and bad fortunes of others' affairs and bodies. By means of words, inspired incantations serve as bringers on of pleasure and takers off of pain. For the incantation's power, communicating with the soul's opinion, enchants and persuades and changes it by trickery. Two distinct methods of trickery and magic are to be found. errors of soul, and deceptions of opinion. What cause then prevents the conclusion that blank, similarly, against her will, might have come under the influence of speech, just as if taken by the force of pirates? For the mode of persuasion is in no way like that of necessity, but its power is the same. For discourse was the persuader of the soul, which it persuaded and compelled to believe the things that were said and to agree to the things that were done. He who persuaded, as constrainer, did wrong, while she who was persuaded, as one constrained by means of the discourse, is wrongly blamed. Persuasion, belonging to discourse, shapes the soul at will. Witness, first, the discourses of the astronomers, who by setting aside one opinion and building up another in its stead, make incredible and obscure things apparent to the eyes of opinion. Second, the necessary debates in which one discourse, artfully written but not truthfully meant, delights and persuades a numerous crowd. And third, the competing arguments of the philosophers, in which speed of thought is shown off, as it renders changeable the credibility of an opinion. The power of discourse stands in the same relation to the soul's organization as the pharmacopoeia does to the physiology of bodies. For just as different drugs draw off different humors from the body, and some put an end to disease and others to life, so too the discourses. Some give pain, others delight, others terrify. Others ruse the hearers to courage, and yet others, by a vile persuasion drug and trick, the soul. Gorgias, June 2020. Well, knowing Jared's Twitter, as I do, this is probably speaking about the manner of discourse within the tabletop role-playing game sphere. Talking about how it's not the fault of the person who was persuaded by the discourse, but the person who persuaded them. That it's really not somebody's fault who falls for a good argument. It is the person who makes the argument who is at fault. And I'm sure you could take that any number of ways in regards to tabletop role-playing game discourse. Beyond that, I'm not entirely sure what he's trying to say, if anything. But to bring light to the shape of discourse and to the power that it might actually have over people. But that's, I feel like I'll be thinking about that for a while. That's the thing with written work like this, these kind of speeches. They have a way of kind of maybe not popping up into your head right now. Like you might not have any thoughts about it right now, but in a couple days, maybe you'll think about it. The next time you see somebody beginning a discourse on Twitter, you'll remember editorial 2. I think we have enough time. I think we'll go ahead and do a second one. Because why not? The second one is... okay. Of course. The second issue is called A Practical Guide for Game Designers in the OSR Tradition. Let's take a look at it. I have a feeling after I read this one, I might be done. Knowing Jared, if it's anything like that one, that might be it. I feel in the mood to read right now, so you're lucky. This video is going to go on for a little bit longer. This one is 2 editorials again. This one of them actually by Jared, and then one of them by Ludwig. What is that? Wittgenstein, I think is how it is pronounced. So, Wittgenstein from 1953, he really loved his tabletop role-playing games. The art to this one is a lot crisper, modern, symmetrical, less artsy than the last one. feels more detached, and I wonder if that will kind of come through in the writing. But let's start with the first editorial by Jared Sinclair in June 2020. There is a spot on the horizon if you stand in the right place at just the right angle. You'll know it when you see it. Remember it. You must be able to reproduce it at will, wherever you happen to be, or nothing will come from it. It takes practice, rigorous training, and discipline over months and years. A steady regimen of unfortunate occurrences will help. You'll know them when they happen. This is the distance of the work, and it is as far only as that from hand to pen, if known fully. You will know it when you manage it. Concern yourself with the work, and the work will come. The work will show you how to do it. Do no work at all until you know how to do it, and the work will come on its own. You will know it when you do it, because you have already known it, and continue. Work backwards from the work. Let it be known only to yourself. Close your eyes if you have to. Breathing comes as naturally, and then no more. There is plenty of time if you know the virtue of waiting. The patience is optional. Large outlines are one way. Do not take this as a recommendation. It is only true. Large outlines and small details will get you there if you follow them where they go. You will know when you have arrived because you were already there and remain. You cannot leave because there is work to do, so remain and continue. The horizon moves occasionally, but the spot remains. Do not lose it. It's there where you left it because you never left and nothing has moved. The work is movement, and remain and continue. It is not enough to refrain from telling. You must not know in the first place. This is the secret of the work. It is not a secret to be kept. It keeps itself and continues. It is only revealed to the initiated and the foolish. They see perhaps who they are or could be in truth or in delusion. They cannot remain because they are made of movement. They are happening. They continue. They are a happening. You must remain on the horizon. You must be a spot to anchor their secret. It is not told to you, nor the path it walks, because you must remain and continue, and the secret is movement and continues. It moves towards them, the initiated and the foolish, and they carry it or it carries them to places where you cannot go. I have heard it is a heaven or a hell, but I cannot know because there is work to be done and I am far away, and remain and continue. I have no comment. This is editorial number 2 from Ludwig Wittgenstein, 1953. Now think of the following use of language. I send someone shopping. I give him a slip marked 5 red apples. Then he looks up the word red in a table and finds a color sample opposite it. Then he says the series of cardinal numbers, I assume he knows them by heart, up to the word 5, and for each number he takes an apple of the same color as the sample out of the drawer. It is in this and similar ways that one operates with words. But how does he know where and how he is to look up the word red, and what he is to do with the word 5? Well, I assume that he acts as I have described. Explanations come to an end somewhere. What is the meaning of the word 5? No such thing was in question here, only how the word 5 is used. Let us now look at an expansion of language. Besides the 4 words block, pillar, etc., let it contain a series of words used as the shopkeeper used the numerals. It may be a series of letters of the alphabet. Further, let there be 2 words, which may as well be there and this, because this roughly indicates their purpose, that are used in connection with a pointing gesture. And finally, a number of colored samples. A gives an order like D slab there. At the same time, he shows the assistant a color sample, and when he says there, he points to a place on the building site. From the stock of slabs, B takes 1 for each letter of the alphabet up to D of the same color as the sample and brings them to the place indicated by A. On other occasions, A gives the order this, there. At this, he points to a building stone, and so on. Now, what do the words of this language signify? What is supposed to show what they signify, if not the kind of use they have? And we have already described that, so we are asking for the expression, this word signifies this, to be made a part of the description. In other words, the description ought to take the form, the word signifies. Of course, one may for sure to describe the use of the word slab by saying that this word signifies this object. This will be done when, for example, it is merely a matter of removing the mistaken idea that the word slab refers to the shape of building stone that we in fact call a block. But apart from this point, it is already known what sort of referring this is, that is, how these words are used. Equally, one may say that the signs A, B, etc. signify numbers, when, for example, this removes the mistaken identity that A, B, C play the part actually played in the language by block, slab, pillar. And one may also say that C means this number and not that one, when, for example, this serves to explain that the letters are to be used in this order, A, B, C, D, etc., and not in the order A, B, D, C. But assimilating the descriptions of the uses of words in this way cannot make the uses themselves any more like one another, for, as we see, they are absolutely unlike. Think of the tools in a toolbox. There is a hammer, pliers, a saw, a screwdriver, a rule, a glue pot, glue, nails, and screws. The functions of words are as diverse as the functions of these objects, and in both cases, there are similarities. Of course, what confuses us is the uniform appearance of words when we hear them spoken or meet them in script and print, for their application is not presented to us clearly, especially when we are doing philosophy. That was by Ludwig Wittgenstein, 1953. It kind of sounds like a load of bullocks to me, but also I think I understand what he's trying to say, that words are, words have meaning already, but that words are like tools that can have different effects. That words are tools. I think if you were to boil it down, words are tools. And then what confuses us is when people try to use them in different ways. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's as simple as words are tools. That's what I get from this. That's what I would take from it. When it comes to games writing, I think it's an important thing to think about because, that is how we communicate. That is how we communicate our ideas. Philosophy. Games writing is like philosophy. It's like sharing a personal philosophy. And so not understanding what somebody is trying to say in their game or about their game, maybe they're using the wrong tool. Maybe you're using the wrong tool. But that is I could probably read another one. Let me open the third one. Oh, no, this one's questions. I don't know if I want to do that. It's like a Q&A. But yeah, that is Anti-Gorgias 1 and 2. We'll read 3 and 4 if people want me to. Maybe I can go back and read anti-sisyphus as well. But let me know. Let me know in the comments what you want me to read. If you enjoy listening to these things, because I enjoy reading. I think it's fun. I would love to do read-throughs of other things that aren't necessarily games. Even things like manga. Like I have a copy of Blom that I've been wanting to read through. I think it would be fun to read through with you. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed your drink. I hope you enjoyed listening. I hope you enjoyed the background music. And until next time, good luck. Don't die.